Hello, welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to, well, some quite unseasonable weather. As you saw as I walked in, a lot of different cloud up there, and for the beginning of July, well, it's not particularly warm. The weather is incredibly changeable, and we've also had quite a lot of wind and wet weather, which is very, very unseasonable. But that doesn't matter, because if you're a regular viewer to the channel, you'll know I'm always carrying my waterproof poncho, and that is the subject of this video. But before we do that, a couple of other things, and the first of those is get a kettle on. Now, the next thing that I need to do is to say a quick hello to somebody called Paul Henry. And Paul, well, he rang me up a couple of weeks ago just to say how much he enjoys the channel. It was really nice, and we had a bit of a chat, and yeah, it was great. So, hello Paul, if you're watching, and really glad you enjoy the channel. So, back to the subject of the video. This, my waterproof poncho. Now, a few weeks back I did a video called the Bushcraft poncho, where I explained why I think this is such a vital piece of kit for a bushcrafter. In my opinion, it's right up there with the Mora knife. And I showed some of the modifications that I've made to this and how they're used. Quite a few people asked, what were the mods? What were the exact mods that you did? Can you show them? So that's what I'm going to do in this video. So I've kept this all very, very simple, and essentially what I've got is my basic Dutch Army poncho, which it doesn't have to be one of these, it could be any poncho. They all seem to be lacking in the same places. So a basic poncho, doesn't really matter which one it is. It could be one of these Dutch ones, which these are very good. It could be one of the old British 58 ponchos. It could be one of the Helicontex USGI type ones. The actual sewing bit, you're going to need a sewing machine. Again, it needs to be a fairly simple machine. These are light duty materials. You're not going to need a big industrial sewing machine for any of these little jobs. And I've kept it all very, very simple, so you're only going to need very basic skills. You're also going to need some 25mm polypropylene webbing, and you're probably going to need about 1.5 meters. You also are going to want about 1/2 meter of 50mm wide polypropylene webbing. So one of the first modifications I made to this was where the eyelets are, I over sewed them with 25mm tape. And what I did was I took some webbing, and these are 20cm pieces. And all I did was I folded them over and I sewed them over the actual eyelet with a little bit of sewing on either side. And that was because these eyelets, and the Dutch ponchos are very, very good quality, but the eyelets do pull out. The tape, it can't pull out, it's sewn in place, and this is uber strong. So I did that onto all of the eyelets. So you've got 3 running down your long sides on both sides, and then obviously your ones on the corner as well. On the short side, again, you've got a couple of those, so you just over sewn those. What I also did when I was doing that as well, it's quite good to have some extra tying out points. Now with these, I added down the short side, I added 3 extra little loops. On the long side, well, I didn't need extra ones on those because there were enough eyelets. But running all the way round, I've got these really good, very strong loops, and those will not pull out. Now in total there's 14 of those loops running all the way around the outside of my top, so it's a few extra, but those extra points allow you a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more freedom while you're setting up, and also, well, you've got the added assurance that loops won't pull out whereas eyelets do, and that's the last thing you want when you're out in the field. So the next thing I turn my attention to, well, is the hood, because like all ponchos, the hood on this one is very, very basic. On this particular one, it's also huge. In fact, it's just that bit too big, and particularly if the weather's bad, yes, we want something we can retreat into, but also we don't want something that when it fills with wind, well, it's just uncontrollable. So my next job, my next modification, is onto the hood. Now with the hood on the Dutch poncho, as well as being very big, it's probably designed for someone wearing a helmet, and for that reason it's got these weird ear holes, these little flap protectors on the outside. So I've used those to help me adjust the hood. Now the first thing you want to do is shrink the volume that way. So what I did was I sewed this little square on, and then that sits on top of the hood, so face hole in here, back of the hood here, and sitting on the top of it is that little square. Into that is sewn a length of paracord, and that links up with my other adjuster, and that adjuster, you can see on there, it's just a piece of polypropylene webbing. And what I've done with it is I've sewn the ends that way, and into that I've sewn a little piece of flattened paracord. When I say flattened, all I've done is take the core out, so it's just the sheath. I've also added this little loop onto the top of it, and I've stitched along the top. On the bottom side, you can see I've stitched in there, but I've left a gap in the centre. And this loop of cord is attached. It's all one piece, and that runs through to the side where the little ear holes are. What that allows us to do is we can shrink the volume of the hood from the side just by pulling this like so, and that closes in the side volume. The one on the top up here, well, that piece of cord's got a little cord lock on the end of it, and you just pass that through the little loop, and when you want to shrink it that way, you literally just pull it through, move your adjuster, and suddenly instead of that big floppy hood, you've now got a much smaller volume hood, which that's exactly what we want. Also, it's one that if you're wearing a cap like this, which gives you that visor to keep the rain out, it also helps the hood to move with your head. So it's a big improvement. That's good. So my next modification, well, the next one is on the inside, and it's these. And what these are bits of 50mm polypropylene webbing, and these are sewn on 3 sides. There's 4 of them, 1 on each corner. and they're open topped, as I said, sewn on 3 sides, and it gives us a small pocket onto each corner. Now you could stash bits of knotted cord like your jungle lines that are perhaps pre-tied on there but what I use them for is if I need to put up my poncho as a shelter and I haven't got anything to tie onto or anything I can work off, then I might want to use perhaps some bendy sticks, or what I've started doing, if I'm in an area where there's not a lot, I carry a set of tent poles, and what it allows me to do is set this up as a freestanding shelter, and it really is quite a good addition. Now there's one other bit that you need, and that is on the inside next to the hood. I've got a piece of this, and this is Velcro, and that Velcro, I've got a fuzzy bit on that side and a hook bit on that side. And what it does is the 2 lock to form a loop, and that all helps when I'm setting this up as a shelter. Now for that setup, what I'm also going to need are these, and these are these little telescopic tent poles. Relatively lightweight, very, very simple. These ones came out of my Coyote 3 tent. But these, combined with the poncho, make an excellent setup, well, when you need to get out the weather in a hurry. So there you go, it's up, and that didn't take long, did it? It's quite a simple little modification to do, but if you spend time moving through areas where you can never guarantee having a tree to tie off from, this makes quite a lot of sense. So yeah, for something that only took a few minutes to do, time wise to do the modification, well, you get a really, really good payback. So there you go, that is my little bushcraft gear top tip. Mod your poncho. It doesn't take very long to do, it doesn't take a great deal of skill, and it doesn't cost a whole lot of money, and what you get back, well, it's something that is even more versatile than the regular poncho. Give it a go. Anyway, get out there. As I said, it doesn't take a lot. If you've got a sewing machine, you can borrow a sewing machine, probably an hour's work. It's that simple. So there you go. Anyway, in other news, now I haven't been on for a little while. There's a good reason for that. It's that time of year where I'm very, very, very busy. This time of year when the weather's relatively good, people want to spend time outdoors, and so that means I'm busy. So yeah, on my apologies, I will try and get it a little bit more frequently, but as I said, it's a bit busy at the moment. Now, for those of you who spend a bit of time over at the Greencraft Shop, these have now appeared, the new little Greencraft spoons. Get yourself one of those, and while you're over there, there is also my little Greencraft logo patches. There's also some of my fire starter pouches, my survival necklaces. All of those good things are over there. There are also the Greencraft t-shirts, and they have been selling really well. So if you haven't got one already, pop over, get yourself one. Now, you also, I asked last time, would these be a go? And these are little faux leather patches. You guys said, yep, get them done. So they are now in production, and they should be appearing in the shop very, very soon. If you look in the description box down below, you will see a link to my Etsy shop, as well as Facebook and Instagram and all those things. So pop over there, give me a follow. I think that's everything. I've been Neil, and until next time, stay safe in the woods.